Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Halton Hills housing update. So the numbers are a bit odd this week. So looking at what happened in Georgetown, which is not the really odd part. So Georgetown had 10 sales, which is a normal-ish number for Georgetown. Things are definitely still moving there. There was only 11 new listings, so that's definitely on the lower end of what we want to see. We are still sitting relatively low in Georgetown, and so these numbers are flat. We did see a couple properties come off the market too. So Georgetown is definitely a market that is keeping our market moving basically, and is really, the numbers are still moving there basically. But let's look at Acton. Acton this week had no sales. This is the first time in months that we have seen no sales in Acton. They're regularly getting between 2 and 4 sales a week. So to see no sales in Acton this week is kind of confusing. I think that there's a lot of really good stuff available there, but it could just be a blip in the reporting of sales, but no sales in Acton this week. So that's interesting because I think the buyers are out and active. There was 5 new listings though. So Acton's inventory is really starting to feel a crunch. To see 5 new listings and no sales is not great for the overall market there, but we'll see what happens next week if this is a trend. If it is a trend, Acton's gonna be in for some pretty stagnant, if not drops in prices. So let's just see what happens next week. I'm not gonna get like too excited over no sales this week, but just interesting. I think it's the first time since the start of May that we saw no sales there. So looking at Glen Williams, no sales and 1 new listing. And Limehouse had no sales and no new listings, which is pretty standard for Limehouse. Another conversation point is our rural market. So the rural market had 1 sale, normal for a week in the rural market, but there was 5 new listings. We are feeling the inventory just pile on in the rural market. It has been weeks of new listings, and you'll see when I talk about it later, our rural market is the highest I've ever seen it in the 3.5 years of doing this market update. So looking at active inventory, there was 131 active listings last week. We are up to 141 active listings. That is a huge climb, and it's mostly because of Acton and the rural market. But to see 141 is a bit of a surprise given how strong the sales have kind of been the last few weeks. I mean, the last few months, but like things are still moving pretty good. And so to see it go up by 10 is kind of like a, you know, kind of an alert, like, okay, we need to start watching what's gonna happen here. Is this just a blip or is this gonna be a new trend? Looking at Georgetown, Georgetown remained the same this week at 74. So Georgetown is still staying very stable. Like the market is still moving really well, especially under $1 million still, but things are very stable in Georgetown. And I went back and looked because last July was our highest inventory in 2022, and Georgetown was at 125 active listings at this update last July. And so we are only at 74 this week. That's a massive decrease compared to year over year. So our market still has very low supply when we're considering, you know, the market we came from. Looking at the price points, under 800,000 is up from 4 to 5. There's 2 freehold and then 3 condo towns or condo apartments. 800 to $1 million remain the same this week at 15 active listings. 1 to 1.5 million is down slightly from 26 to 25 active listings. That is starting to climb. It's still a far cry from where we were, but that market is starting to slow down a bit, that 1 to 1.5. And then 1.5 plus is the same at 29 this week. And that is much better than the 39 that we were at a few weeks ago. So we've seen that 1.5 inventory come down. We've seen a few sales, we've seen some properties come off the market, and then we've seen a few price adjustments under the 1.5 price point. So that's sort of where we're at in Georgetown. Still very stable. Now the conversation is about Acton. So Acton is up from 16 to 21 active listings. The last time we saw 21 active listings was January the 3rd. So this is our highest inventory that we've seen basically this year in Acton, which kind of surprises me, but it's not as high as, or the highest we got was 28 in Acton. But what this kind of means for Acton is historically, as we go through the summer, inventory is kind of balanced. If anything, we're kind of going into September with lower inventory. And then people have this mindset of, I'm gonna sell in the fall. So they list their houses September, October, and we usually see like a good amount of listings coming up in that time. If Acton doesn't start to see sales pick up, we're gonna be going into the fall in a very high inventory position, and that's actually going to really hurt pricing in Acton. So we've seen a lot of steady good weeks in Acton. I do think this might just be a blip, but it's just something to sort of note that we're sitting pretty high with inventory there. And if you're a buyer, like take a look at Acton. There's some pretty decent things available. Looking at Glen Williams this week, they're up slightly from 6 to 7, so not crazy high. Limehouse remained the same at 3, and now the rural market. The rural market went up from 32 to 36 active listings. Again, in the 3.5 years that I have done this market update, I have never seen the rural market hit 36. 34 was the highest I had seen it hit. So we are sitting at 36 active listings in the rural market. And I always talk about this. When town starts to slow down a bit, the rural market slows down even more than in town. So we're gonna be watching that, but to think that it could go even higher than 36 is, I don't know, maybe alarming a bit. Like we're possibly showing a trend that our market is starting to shift and that buyer activity might be slowing down, and then sellers may be needing to get out of their properties. So lots of things to take in from this week. This time last July, we were at 192 active listings in all of Halton Hills. The highest we had seen was 193. So in comparison, we are still, I don't know, leaps and bounds behind where we were last year. But a few months of this kind of slow sales, new inventory increasing, and we could be right back to where we were last year. Last October was our lowest price point. It hit under $1 million average price in Halton Hills last October. So it's going to be really interesting to see if our fall follows the same trend that it did last year, because normally the fall market's really strong and last year's was horrific. So I'm gonna be watching these numbers closely because the Acton and the rural numbers are really starting to throw me off. And if we stop seeing sales in Acton, that's gonna be interesting what we'll do. And even Georgetown sales only at 10 when there's a ton of properties available is not huge. So it's normal, but we want to see things moving at more of a rapid pace. To only have 11 sales last week in all of Halton Hills is very low. So I will be back next Tuesday to see what happens. Have a great week, everyone.